Mention for a moment that actually my vision, and this is an environment in which I feel free and comfortable to say it, is that at some point we're going to stop talking about sustainability as the highest vision, the highest goal, especially when we're in an environment where we're talking spirituality. Meaning, sustainable is better than unsustainable. Obviously, we are in an unsustainable way of life right now, and those values, which I'll speak about, have to be shifted back to sustainability. And it's important to realize that sustainability is not the highest vision that, in my opinion, we should hold out for ourselves. If someone says to you, "How's your marriage doing?" and you say, "Oh, it's sustainable," they'd be like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry to hear that." Right? I mean, sustainable matlab ki we haven't killed each other yet. We haven't divorced yet. We haven't, burned down our collective house yet. But a sustainable marriage does not really evoke feelings of great love and connection and oneness. I mean, if someone says, you imagine a husband and wife getting married, and the priest says, "Do you commit to live together sustainably?" You'd be like, "Really? Well, this is what my life is for?" So in this small room where we're here together talking about the spiritually based value education, at least let us hold out a vision of really what is our highest vision. Sustainable, yes, in comparison to unsustainable, which is where we currently are. But after we get to sustainable, we need to actually keep holding the vision out to something that is positive, to something that is vibrant, to something that is blossoming and flowering, not just sustainable. So it's important to mention that, especially when we're thinking about what are we teaching our children? Is maintaining the status quo really the highest goal that we can give our children? That's what sustainable means. It's not getting any worse. It can sustain itself. Is that the highest goal we're giving our children? No. The highest goal is one that is vibrant, that is awake, that is grounded and connected and alive. So let's start talking. I mean, yes, in the UN world and the world of development, we talk sustainable, no problem. First, we have to get there. But at least in our spiritual communities, let's have the courage and the clarity to realize that our highest vision is far beyond sustainable. So with regard specifically to the values in education, I touched on that this morning. I wanted to use this time to expand on that a bit. And as you may have realized in the morning, I'm a storyteller. And so one of my favorite stories is a story of a school in a very bad area of New York, poor area, crime-ridden, drug-ridden area of New York, where the children basically all became drug addicts and criminals and whatnot. And a group of scientists was doing a study on the students from that school. And they found that, interestingly, you had two ends of the spectrum. You had those we expected, drug addicts, homeless people, criminals. And then you had those who had become high-level professionals, had graduated not only high school, but college, in many cases an advanced degree. And so they went and they found all of those students. It was now 20, 25 years later. And they said to them, what was different? How did you manage to come out of the world you were in? And every one of those students pointed to one teacher. Scientists then couldn't resist. They went and found that one teacher who by this point was, 80, 90 years old. And they said to her, what did you do? Aapne kya kiya? What did you teach those children? that enabled them to avoid a life of crime, a life of drugs, and to actually thrive and succeed. Not just survive, but thrive. This old woman looked at them and smiled, and she said, I just loved those kids. And I love that story because for me, it really brings home the core value, which is a value of who you are is worthy. Who you are is lovable. Who you are is enough. It's not when you bring home straight A's. It's not when you are the top of the class. It's not when you get into this college or university. It's simply who you are in this moment, in this place, is enough, is valuable, is worthy, is whole, is complete. And that teaching for our youth, who these days are so stressed, so competitive, committing suicide at staggering rates, all because they're being raised in a world that tells them your value is based on your grades. Your value is based on what university you get into. Your value is based on your grade on the math test. Your value is based on your ranking in class. So we need to give them that awareness. And then I just very quickly want to give a couple of other things. Bhuvanaji is giving me the signal I have to leave for the airport. But I'm going to take another few minutes and we'll assume there's not going to be too much traffic. We need to give our children the awareness. In fields, for example, like economics. These days we're talking so much here in India, especially with education, about India becoming such an economic power, which is fantastic. It should, by all means. But the economy that we are giving our youth the training in, the education in, is not an economy with the values of the West where it's all about profits and losses to my pocket, where it's all about a price tag that has to do with how much money out of my pocket to buy this item. But a vision of economy, a vision of finance, a vision of commerce that is rooted in what is the ultimate cost, not just to me from my pocket, but to planet Earth. What is the cost to the water, to the soil, to the land, to the air of the production of this item? How many trees were cut down in putting this factory there? How much were our rivers polluted by the waste from that factory? How many women and children were in sweatshops to produce this item so that I could get it at the cheapest possible rate? When we speak about sustainability, we're not just talking, we spoke this morning about SDG 4 education, but the SDGs are a collective, an interwoven tapestry of awakened societies that include women's rights, that include equality, that include access to health care, that include water, sanitation, hygiene, that include ending climate change, that include ending extreme poverty. And what that means is that when we're studying economics, for example, or technology, or any of these fields, we can't look at them in vacuums. We have to look at their impact on the full planet, their impact on the water, the soil, the air, the people who are growing the cotton, their families. When we're spraying our fields with toxic chemicals, what's the impact? And so in our schools, in our education system, where we are training young people to become business people, to become entrepreneurs, to become innovators, they have to be trained to understand that the bottom line does not stop with their pocket. Their pocket is not the bottom. The bottom is much deeper. And the bottom is much wider, and it has to involve that. And it has to be a vision of education that helps us understand our interconnectedness. So we know, for example, that if I get an infection on my finger and I don't take care of it, my entire body is going to become septic. And eventually I'm going to die. Cutting off my finger is not the solution. Cutting off my arm is not the solution. The solution is to treat the infection before it spreads to my entire body. Our humanity is one. But we're living in a world where an infection over there, poverty over there, a burning Amazon over here, polluted water over there, dried up rivers over here, toxic air over there, are just like pieces that we somehow feel, oh, well, that's all right, we can cut that off. That's all right, we can cut that off. But that infection is spreading. We cannot live in a healthy and sustainable world unless all of us live in a healthy and sustainable world. There is no sustainability for a few. There is only sustainability when there is sustainability for all. And lastly, that's what our values, when we speak values, that's why they're so important, because when children emerge from a school system with the vision of me, mine, I, it's all about what I'm going to get, push others out of the way, a vision that says that it's okay to suppress and oppress, rape and abuse and discard, whether it's women in human bodies, whether it's trees, whether it's rivers, whether it's our Mother Earth. Whatever it is, if I've got a vision that that is an okay way to live, I'm not going to be an asset to Mother Earth. I'm not going to be an asset to the present or the future. I'm not going to be a pillar in the temple of sustainable development that we're building. And so in our education systems, we have to give the values of truth, meaning that we are one. Of truth, meaning that that which I do at my table, in my shopping, in my business, whatever I'm doing in my world is having a ripple impact on the rest of the world, and that is my responsibility. And very last, as I said this morning, but it really bears repeating, we have to give our children the value of courage to co-create the world they want to live in. They are not victims. They are not robots. Robots are going to take over their jobs anyway. Most of that which people know how to do these days is going to be taken over by robots by the time that our kids get out of grade school. Which means that that which we need people to be able to do is to be connected deeply to those spiritual values so that they can have the courage to make the choices, to create the world that they need to live in. And as parents and as educators, the best thing that we can do is get out of the model that says, sit down and shut up, and get into a model that says, be connected, be creative, and be courageous. And with that, I am so sorry, but I have to rush to catch the flight. But it's been such a wonderful honor. And I would love to give the book that I mentioned this morning that I've just written, or rather has been written through me, the book that Penguin Publishers just published and they're outside selling, called Come Home to Yourself, of coming back to the truth of what our spiritual values are, of who we are, and that has come through me. I would love to offer this to Dr. Narasimhamurthy Ji on behalf of the Satya Sai Institute, and it's such a great honor to be able to do that today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Morning talk and now.